Imagine for a second, just, really picture it. You are bringing home a brand new French Bulldog puppy.
Oh, the best feeling, boy.
Totally. You've
Yeah.
got the car seat set up, you've got that tiny little harness, and you are just completely overwhelmed by how cute those giant bat ears are.
And the wrinkly face.
Right,
You can't forget the wrinkles.
right, the wrinkles. But, okay, before that excitement completely takes over your brain, what if that puppy could look right at you, right in the eyes, and give you one single piece of advice on day one?
Well, it's a pretty striking thought experiment. I mean, if you strip away all the gear, the endless shopping lists, the idealized Instagram aesthetics you see online.
Yeah, the curated perfection.
Exactly. You are left with a really fundamental question, which is, what does this living, breathing animal actually need from you to thrive for the next decade?
Welcome to today's deep dive, where we are going to be exploring exactly that. We've got our hands on a really fascinating framework today.
We do. It's the season finale of the Vital Pet Dog Health Academy, specifically their series on French Bulldog health.
And our mission today is to extract the ultimate lifetime blueprint for raising a Frenchie. We're looking for a masterclass in pet companionship that just completely bypasses the crazy info overload we all suffer from.
Oh, the info overload is so real.
It is. We want to replace those anxious, color-coded checklists with instinctive, lifelong habits.
Which is incredibly necessary in today's landscape, honestly. A new owner steps into this absolute flood of fragmented data.
Right, like what do you even listen to?
Exactly. You have conflicting veterinary studies on one side, and then highly curated social media perfection on the other. It's paralyzing.
Totally paralyzing. Okay, let's unpack this, because it's so easy for any learner or new pet owner to get completely overwhelmed.
What's fascinating here is how the source material cuts through all of that with a very specific grounding answer to your opening question.
The advice from the puppy.
Yes, if that puppy could give you one piece of advice on day one, it would say, get to know me as I actually am, not as I look in a photo.
Wow. Get to know me as I actually am. Because, a photo is static, right? It doesn't breathe,
It doesn't age either.
right? It doesn't wake up with joint stiffness on a rainy Tuesday. To understand the real dog sitting in front of you, you can't just memorize a textbook.
No, you have to develop a living framework of care. Today is not about memorizing rules.
And the overarching philosophy that dictates this entire framework, from what the sources say, is surprisingly forgiving. It's that consistency matters more than perfection.
It is a massive relief for anyone drowning in pet care anxiety, honestly.
I bet. So what does this all mean? How do you actually achieve this without a memorized script?
Well, the consensus in the veterinary community is that a dog's long-term well-being isn't determined by single dramatic interventions.
Okay.
It's not about having one absolutely flawless day where you execute a 20-step routine perfectly. Long-term health is really the accumulation of small, steady, well-informed choices repeated over years.
I hear a word like consistency, and I immediately think of something rigid or like boring.
Sure.
It reminds me of the difference between crash dieting and just eating reasonably well every day.
That's a great analogy.
Like you can do a crazy juice cleanse for 3 days and feel like you're being perfect, but doesn't actually make you healthy. What makes you healthy is just eating your vegetables and going for a walk.
Even if you grab a slice of pizza on Friday, right?
Exactly. But physiologically, why is that consistency so vital for a dog? Why does their body prefer boring over perfect?
It really comes down to cellular homeostasis. A dog's body, and particularly a French Bulldog's body, thrives on predictability.
Predictability. Got it.
Yeah. Erratic changes, even well-intentioned ones, create physiological stress. Like suddenly switching to a complex raw diet for 2 days, then forgetting and feeding kibble.
Oh, right, because that messes with their stomach.
Completely. The digestive microbiome gets shocked. Or if you do a massive 5-mile hike on Saturday, but zero activity the rest of the week.
The joints probably hate that.
They do. They experience sudden inflammatory spikes. A dog whose owner does the ordinary things consistently, measured meals, moderate daily movement, that gives the animal's internal systems the stability they need to repair themselves.
And to manage the unique physical vulnerabilities of the breed. So you're adopting an underlying posture here. You aren't executing a rigid algorithmic program.
No, not at all. You are observing a living creature.
You stay curious, attentive, and you're willing to adjust based on the feedback the dog's body gives you.
And that attentive posture has to start when the slate is completely blank. in puppyhood.
Right, which people often treat as this cute, chaotic prologue before the real dog shows up.
Which is a huge mistake. The sources warn that you cannot treat the puppy phase as separate from the adult years. This is where you establish the physical and observational foundation.
Okay, so that involves gentle socialization, sure. But the framework really stresses respecting their physical limits early on.
Yes.
Because Frenchies are prone to chondrodysplasia, right?
Mhm.
That's the genetic condition that gives them those short bowed legs.
Yeah, the dwarfism trait. Their skeleton isn't just a smaller version of a Labrador skeleton. It is structurally entirely different.
Wow, entirely different.
Yeah, the growth plates in their joints close differently, and the cartilage is under unique stress literally from day one.
So if you allow a Frenchie puppy to repeatedly jump off a high couch,
Or if you over-exercise them before their skeleton is fully set, you aren't just making them tired. You are physically micro-fracturing the structural integrity of their joints.
who likes?
Yeah, and that will manifest as severe arthritis years down the line.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because preventing that structural damage requires an intense level of daily observation.
It does.
But the most vital habit to build in these early months isn't just watching where they jump, it's paying attention to their biological baselines, like
Yeah.
how they respond to food, activity, people.
Exactly.
Why is paying such intense attention to baseline behaviors specifically critical for French Bulldogs?
Because the major medical issues that affect this breed rarely announce themselves with a blaring siren. They creep in slowly.
Sneaky issues.
Very sneaky. Breathing changes, joint stiffness, skin sensitivities. Let's look at their respiratory system, for example.
Okay.
A French Bulldog is going to make some noise when they breathe. It's just the nature of their anatomy. But the question is, what is their normal noise?
Right. Is it a soft snuffle when they sleep, or is there a slight rasp when they inhale?
Exactly. And if you don't know what right sounds like, you'll never notice when things go slightly wrong.
Because you don't have anything to compare it to.
Yes. If you've spent puppyhood actively listening to their breathing patterns, noting how fast they recover after a short play session, you have built a mental database.
You've established the baseline.
You have the baseline. Then, when the dog is, say, 4 years old, if that soft snuffle suddenly turns into a higher-pitched wheeze,
Or if their recovery time after a walk takes 5 minutes longer than usual?
you catch it immediately. An owner who never established that genuine sense of what is normal won't notice a problem until the dog is in full respiratory distress.
It's the difference between catching a tiny leak in the roof versus waiting for the ceiling to cave in.
That's a perfect way to put it.
So once that baseline is firmly set and the skeleton stops growing, the puppy officially graduates into adulthood.
The longest chapter.
Yeah, this brings us to what might be the longest, most crucial, yet honestly least talked about chapter of the relationship.
Adulthood is all about maintenance, but in the best sense of that word.
Right, because puppyhood gets all the Instagram photos and excitement, and the senior years get all the sentimental tenderness.
Oh, total.
The adult years are kind of like the middle miles of a marathon. Miles 10 through 20 are completely unglamorous. Nobody's cheering. You aren't crossing a finish line. You're just putting one foot in front of the other.
But that unglamorous, repeated care is where the race is actually won.
So what does successful maintenance actually look like in this phase?
Let's look at the mechanics, starting with lifelong nutrition and weight management.
Okay.
It sounds like generic advice to keep your dog lean, but for a Frenchie, it's a structural imperative. Because of their bulldog lineage, they are incredibly front-heavy.
How front heavy are we talking?
Up to 70% of their entire body weight is carried on their front limbs.
70%. Wow. So if they gain even 2 or 3 extra pounds?
That's not just a little extra padding. That weight is exponentially increasing the mechanical load on their joints every single time they take a step.
It acts as an anchor on their mobility.
It really does. And it directly impacts their joint and breathing comfort. That's why maintenance means strict portion measuring and balanced exercise.
And it also means managing preventive care, like skin fold cleaning, right? Let's talk about the wrinkles.
Oh, the wrinkles.
Everyone loves the wrinkles. They are the breed's trademark. But I have to admit, hearing that you have to wipe out a dog's face folds every single day sounds kind of exhausting.
It can sound that way, yeah.
Why is that such a non-negotiable part of adulthood?
Because of a condition called intertrigo or skin fold dermatitis,
Okay.
those deep wrinkles on a Frenchie's face aren't just aesthetic. They are essentially dark, warm, airless caves.
Oh, that paints a picture.
Right. When a dog drinks water or tears up or even just exists in a humid environment, Moisture gets trapped deep inside those folds.
And without airflow, that moisture just sits there.
It sits there and it creates a perfect incubator.
Oh.
Yeah, the normal flora on the dog's skin, like yeast and various bacteria, suddenly have a warm, dark, wet environment with trapped dead skin cells to feed on.
So they multiply.
Rapidly. A fold that isn't cleaned routinely becomes inflamed, painfully infected, and essentially rots from the inside out.
That is incredibly vivid and honestly terrifying. But it makes complete sense of why the daily wipe down matters. You're disrupting the incubator.
Exactly. But how do you sustain all of this? The feeding metrics, the joint awareness, the daily wrinkle maintenance for 7 years without burning out.
Right. How do you do that?
The hallmark of successful maintenance is achieving what the sources call a unified rhythm.
A unified rhythm.
Yeah. The sign of a thriving household is when skin fold cleaning, portion measuring, and vet visits stop feeling like competing chores.
They just blend into the fabric of the day.
Exactly. They become as natural as brushing your own teeth or checking the mail.
I don't stand in front of my bathroom mirror having an agonizing internal debate about brushing my teeth. I just do it.
Right. The habit is so ingrained it requires zero emotional energy.
And achieving that effortless, unified rhythm is critical when we confront the defining physical characteristic of the French Bulldog.
Their airway.
Yes, their brachycephalic anatomy.
The flat face.
It is the defining thread of their existence.
Yeah.
Every single aspect of a Frenchie's life is filtered through their respiratory capacity.
But the sources emphasize that airway health shouldn't be treated as this single, terrifying topic, right?
No, instead, it must become a lens.
A lens.
A lens applied to almost every decision, exercise, timing, weight management, travel, and even excitement at the front door. It means working with the dog's anatomy rather than resenting or ignoring it. But wait, before we talk about how an owner manages that lens, let's break down what is actually happening inside a flat-faced dog's snout.
Sure.
Why does a 75-degree sunny day affect a Frenchie so drastically compared to, like, a golden retriever?
We have to look at thermoregulation. Dogs do not sweat to cool down like humans do. They pant.
Right.
And panting works through evaporative cooling. When a normal dog with a long snout breathes in hot air, that air travels over complex, bony structures inside the nasal cavity called turbinates.
Turbinates, okay.
These turbinates are covered in moist tissue. As the air passes over this massive surface area, the moisture evaporates, cooling the blood vessels underneath, which then circulates cooled blood back into the body.
I'm picturing a long radiator. There's plenty of space for the air to circulate, hit the coils, and cool down the engine.
That's a perfect analogy. Now, take that same radiator and squish it like an accordion into a tiny 2-inch box. That is a brachycephalic airway. The French Bulldog has the exact same amount of internal tissue as a dog with a long snout, but it is crammed into a fraction of the space.
So the nostrils are pinched, which restricts the intake of air.
Yes.
And then inside, the soft palate is elongated, literally drooping down and partially blocking the trachea.
Exactly. The airflow is severely obstructed, and the surface area for evaporative cooling is drastically reduced.
So when they pant on a hot day,
They are working twice as hard to pull air through a smaller straw. They are generating more internal body heat from the muscular effort of panting, while failing to cool the blood because their internal radiator is compressed.
that is wild. They're literally generating heat trying to cool down.
It is a cascading biological failure.
Okay, knowing that terrifying biological reality, I'm going to push back on behalf of the listener here. Doesn't viewing every single moment of the day through this health lens sound exhausting?
It sounds paralyzing, honestly.
Yeah, doesn't it sound anxiety-inducing to constantly calculate the airway risk of a walk? Or the dog just getting excited?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the framework offers a brilliant counter-perspective. This lens shouldn't feel like a crisis. It should act like a parent instinctively factoring in a child's sensitivities.
Oh, like a parent with a kid who has a severe peanut allergy. They don't have a panic attack every time they walk into a grocery store.
Exactly. They don't live in constant terror. They just naturally, frictionlessly check the labels on new foods.
It becomes second nature. Awareness without anxiety.
Yes. You don't treat every day as a medical emergency. The source gives a great, concrete example.
Let's hear it.
Imagine a warm afternoon. An owner who has internalized this lens doesn't consult a mental checklist or panic.
Right.
They instinctively glance at the time of day, they feel the air, and they adjust the outing. Maybe they decide to play fetch in the hallway instead. The knowledge becomes a frictionless part of how they live.
It goes from being informed by fear to simply being informed. And as that frictionless lens guides the dog safely through those adult years, they eventually reach their senior years.
And this is where the core principles of consistency remain, but the stakes of your observation get much higher.
Because adapting to an aging dog means recalibrating, right?
Yes. The body undergoes shifts, muscle loss begins to set in, which means the joints have less muscular support.
I think a common mistake people make with older dogs is that they notice the dog slowing down, so they just stop walking them entirely.
Which is actually terrible for them. You don't stop the movement, you recalibrate the exercise intensity. Shorter, gentler walks, you watch their metabolism shifts.
And you treat vet visits as vital comparison tools. Why is this heightened observation so necessary now?
Because the margin for unnoticed change narrows.
Right, the sources highlight that. A
Yeah.
young, resilient body can absorb an owner's oversight. If you miss a slight limp in a 2-year-old dog, they bounce back.
But an old body reveals every error. It can't absorb oversights the same way.
So behavioral development and the human-dog bond also never stop deepening during this time, right?
Yeah,
Because the breed is highly relationally motivated.
they absolutely are. Which raises an important question. What is the ultimate payoff of this lifelong investment?
Right. If you put in all this consistent effort, what do you get at the end?
The sources detail this beautiful arc. A puppy teaches you to notice things. An adult dog rewards that attention with years of steady companionship. And an old dog reminds you why it all mattered in the first place.
Wow, that is beautiful. So to summarize for you listening right now, nobody needs to do all of this perfectly.
Not at all.
Navigating info overload and being a great guide for a pet just requires showing up consistently, building routines that evolve, and maintaining curiosity.
Just establish that unified rhythm.
Exactly. So we want to ask you directly, what stands out to you? How might this concept of consistency over perfection and finding a unified rhythm apply to your own daily routines, even outside of pet care?
It's definitely something that translates to our own lives.
It really does. And I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to explore on your own. We spend so much time thinking about how we must meticulously train and shape our dogs. But if a dog's lifetime requires us to replace anxious perfectionism with a quiet, observant, and consistent daily lens of care,
Yeah.
perhaps the greatest trick dogs pull is that they're actually the ones training us to be more patient, attentive, and grounded humans.
Oh, wow. I love that.
It's something to mull over. Until next time, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.